I'm going to say something that might shock you. Okay, are you ready? Here it goes. Greed begins with desire and ends with chains. Let me explain what I mean by this. Hi friends, welcome to the show. It's me. So, we humans are a greedy species, right? We always want more than we have, more money, more power, more fame, more things, more whatever. But the thing is that our greed, it starts with a desire for more and it ends up with us being chained to those very things that we wanted. So let's unpack this idea of greed begins with desire and ends with chains. Desire is the spark that ignites the fire of greed. So we all have desires, right? Basic human desires like wanting to be happy, wanting to be comfortable, wanting to be secure. And when these desires become excessive and insatiable, they transform into greed. For example, think about food. We all need food to survive. But when the need for food turns into an obsession, where someone is always thinking about food, always seeking out food, always eating more and more and more, even though they're already full, that's when it becomes a problem. When we can't stop desiring more and more of something that we know we don't really need, that's when it crosses the line from a normal human want to a greedy desire. This desire for more is what drives us to take more than we need, to exploit others, to harm the environment. When we're driven by insatiable desires, we're willing to do almost anything to get what we want. We justify our actions, we rationalize our thoughts, and we ignore the needs of others in our relentless pursuit of more. Now, here's the second part of the quote. Greed ends with chains. So when we give in to our greed, when we succumb to our insatiable desires, we end up creating chains for ourselves. Chains of habits, chains of dependencies, chains of negative behaviors. Think of the person who is enslaved by gambling. They start off just wanting to have some fun, to win some money, to get the excitement of the game, but then it becomes an addiction. They find themselves spending more and more time and money on gambling. They start lying to their loved ones about how much they're spending. They neglect their responsibilities and they lose control of their lives. In the end, the chains of their habit have bound them and made them a slave to the game. Or think of the person who is addicted to social media. They use it initially to stay connected with friends, to share their life experiences, to consume interesting content. But then it becomes an addiction. They spend hours scrolling through feeds, constantly seeking validation through likes and comments. They compare themselves to others and they feel inadequate. In the end, the chains of their addiction bind them to their phone, making it difficult to disconnect and live in the real world. And now, here's the kicker. The chains of greed not only affect the individual, but also those around them. When we're consumed by our own greed, we hurt the people we love. We damage our relationships, and we create a ripple effect of pain and suffering. Think of the businessman who's so focused on making more money that he neglects his family. He misses his kids' important events. He lets his business travel take priority over spending time with his loved ones. In the end, his greed robs him of his most valuable relationships and leaves him feeling empty and unfulfilled. Or think of the politician who's so driven by power that he's willing to do anything to get it. He lies to the public, he cheats on his spouse, and he sacrifices his principles for personal gain. In the end, his greed destroys his reputation, his marriage, and his soul. Now, let's talk about how we can break the chains of greed. How do we escape this cycle of desire, greed, and chains? Well, the first step is awareness. We have to be aware of our own greed, our own desires for more, and how they're driving us to harm ourselves and others. This takes honesty, self-reflection, and a willingness to face our own demons. The second step is to practice gratitude. When we're grateful for what we have, when we appreciate the blessings in our lives, we're less likely to want more and more and more. Gratitude helps us focus on the present moment, to savor the joy of what we already have, and to let go of the constant craving for more. The third step is to set healthy boundaries. We have to learn to say no to our own greed, to the temptations that lead us to excess, and to the voices that tell us we can never have enough. Healthy boundaries protect us from the destructive power of greed and help us stay true to our values and priorities. And finally, the fourth step is to cultivate compassion. When we care about the suffering of others, when we empathize with those who are less fortunate, we're less likely to be driven by selfish desires and more likely to act in ways that benefit not only ourselves, but also our communities and the world around us. Compassion is the antidote to greed, and it's a powerful force for good in our lives and in the world. So there you have it, friends. Greed begins with desire and ends with chains. We have to be aware of our own greed, practice gratitude, set healthy boundaries, and cultivate compassion. These are the steps we need to take to break the chains of greed and create a life that is not only successful but also meaningful, fulfilling, and compassionate. So thank you for watching. Thank you for your support, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.